if I said 1918. Have you ever heard of the Curse of the Bambino?
Oh, yes.
It was in the World Series in 1918, and they played it at the seventh inning stretch. Yep.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
I thought that was interesting. I love finding the history of this.
Those are factoids behind the media.
Yes, indeed.
Are we hot?
Yeah, we're hot.
Oh, that was one of the best parts of the show. We just gave it away. All right. That's all right.
No,
that's why it's
for those of you who are just tuning in.
Yeah, if there is.
We're getting ready for our show Behind the Media.
This happens a lot when people just click in.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, it's kind of funny. We don't get any comments.
It is funny.
Somebody
told me that they enjoyed the birthday thing as well.
Yes.
That was kind of cool. But anyway, behind the media. So this is just a little teaser as we're getting ready. We're about four minutes before we start our show. And what am I doing? Well, Jimmy's over there doing last minute research, and I'm downloading some video.
I'm actually highlighting the research.
You're highlighting
I've done the research. Now I want to go back and actually.
I'm making a dub of a file, and just so I can close out what I'm working on here, and before we get going, because I've already done the highlighting in my mind of what I want to do, and these guys are not sponsors, so we will not show their name on camera.
No, but guess what? I'm wearing the sponsors' underwear.
Oh, you can talk about it.
Totally. Are you kidding me? I love my Mack Weldon. I feel all good on under. Is this the best underwear I've ever had? I can tell you, I've never had to compare it before.
Hey, look at the camera quality.
To me, it's all about. That's right. To me, it's all about.
I don't even. I can't even tell.
To me,
I could tell. Sorry.
It's.
You seem much more.
To me, everything of
relaxed.
Yeah, I'm definitely relaxed, and I feel good. But I did.
Jimmy's underwear stories, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. You want to stay tuned for that.
Let's see here. Yeah, what are you doing for the weekend, Jimmy?
I'm going to Washington, D.C., your old stomping grounds.
You are?
Going to hang out with POTUS because he and I are so close, you know.
That's good.
Actually, I'm thinking of egging the White House. Could I egg the White House? I could go to jail for that.
Yes. You do not want to do anything. The White House building didn't do anything to you.
That's
Jimmy.
A good point. It's true. And actually, that is one of those symbols that remains no matter who is a habitant inside.
Exactly. The presidency itself is a beautiful thing.
Yes. Okay, that one's good. That national anthem, that's going to be an interesting discussion. And by the way, breaking news.
What's the breaking news?
The NFL is now saying, well, we did take a vote, but it was really just a show of hands. It wasn't
the real vote. Oh, so, though, that was smart. You test the waters.
They tested the waters.
You test the waters, and then you say, well, maybe it wasn't real.
That's right. We're just kind of faking and
it's a way to back out of something without backing out of something.
Because it's obvious they screwed up how they did
it.
As usual.
Is that unusual?
Yes.
Are you surprised
no,
that they did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I find the Leslie Stahl thing is very fascinating.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So that's more than just the story itself, That's makes it a little deeper. So I think we're good.
And it's interesting. So, and did you know it was before.
He was, so they made a mistake.
They made a mistake.
Yeah, they said it was president-elect, but it wasn't. It was during the campaign.
It was during the campaign. Absolutely. I think it was June.
I don't know that makes a whole lot of difference. I mean,
it's his mindset. Just his mindset during that time.
It's always been there, right? While he was running, right?
But
it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't take anything away from the statement itself. Yep. So
everybody's talking about fake news. Fake
news.
He should probably trademark that.
Yeah. I should have bought fakenews.com.
Ooh.
Fakenews.org. Fake news everything. Okay. I think we're good. By the way, I got up at 4:45 this morning.
What do you want, a prize?
No, I'm just telling you.
So that means you're a little tired?
I'm a little tired. My eyelids are,
I've already driven to Logan Airport and back, if that makes you feel.
But did you do it at 4:45 this morning?
No, I did it at 8 o'clock.
By then, I had done a million things.
There was a horrible accident. The traffic was a mess this morning. They had a flip-over truck.
Oh, man.
Happens.
Bad news. Okay, I think we are ready to go. Hit it, Steven.
You're tuned in to Behind the Media, Dan Lothian and Jimmy Young bring 70 years of award-winning broadcast experience to the table. From newsrooms across the country, behind anchor desks and in the field, they've seen and covered it all. And now they are here to take you behind the media.
You're going to have to embrace technology. If you're an educator,
I'm embracing it.
I want you to use the phone to help teach these kids.
You don't need to do that. I was covering the president in China, and we did a behind-the-scenes video. This is a gong, or
no, not a gong, a bong.
A bong.
With a B.
That's right. Did I say
the
gong?
Gong is a gong
that's right.
show.
I said gong.
Gong
Bong.
makes noise.
Bong.
Okay.
Why is it, Jimmy? Why?
Because sex sells, Dan.
True, but it's only part of the answer. It is, you have to be more creative now to be able to tell a story, and sometimes it's just a before and after picture and saying, which one do you want to be? TV turned the NFL flag protest into a major controversy. Now the league has come up with some new rules. But is it all about to backfire?
The Environmental Protection Agency holds a public event and blocks some major news organizations like CNN from entering. Are we turning back the progress clock?
I like that. Progress clock.
Progress clock.
Progress clock. Okay. Now we know why Trump beats up on the media, but why didn't 60 Minutes correspondent Leslie Stahl make it all public long ago?
And bites behind the media. Quick hits of some of the other stories everyone's buzzing about, including the latest social media craze called orbiting.
Orbiting.
I'm glad you know what that is. And why Snapchat's parent company Snap is launching an accelerator.
Ring the bell, my friend.
It says, ring the bell, my friend. Oh.
Hello, everybody. Grab your favorite beverage, throw in a bunch of ice, and shake it up. But don't stir, says Mr. Bond. Today's show will taste so smooth. We've got too much to talk about on this episode of Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media so you don't have to go around digging for it. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter. And listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Mack Weldon. Jimmy is wearing Mack Weldon today.
I am.
And is feeling kind of smooth and comfortable and not itchy.
How? Well, you know that because I told you that.
Yes. I don't know
make
that.
Sure that's the only reason why how you know
I
that.
did not peek and I did not experience, but you told me all about it.
Yes.
It's a premium men's essentials brand. For 20% off your first order, visit MackWeldon.com and enter promo code CLNS at checkout. We're also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com. Can Roger Goodell do anything right?
No.
That's the $64,000 question.
Actually, you know what he does right?
What does he do right?
He cashes his paycheck every
does.
week very well.
And he makes a whole lot of money
Yes,
very well.
does.
That's right.
Yes, he does.
He has come up with new rules to deal with the national anthem
He and
protest.
his owners.
He and his owners.
Right.
And he's always coming up with a lot of things that don't make sense.
He can't get anything right.
No, he can't.
He understands. Look, this could have just gone away.
Right.
They
could have.
They could have just let it go because by the end of last season, it kind of waned. And,
Right.
And keep in mind they've played the national anthem at National Football League games with the teams out of the locker room.
Right. That's the
since
history of this.
2009.
Right. They
because
would be
before that, they were in the locker room. They would play the anthem, make some commercial money because after all, that's what the NFL is all about, folks.
Exactly.
You knew that. So now, of course, they've asked all the owners about, what are we going to do about this anthem thing?
Right.
So they
they're trying to have it both
resurrected.
ways. They want to make sure that the players get to express themselves, but they don't want it to turn into a spectacle.
And they screwed up without
Yet
including
again.
the National Football League Players Association because anything having to do with the players has to be collectively bargained for this reason. Okay,
Yes, exactly.
This reason alone, they don't get to decide what their employees do
No,
because it's
not
a
at all.
union-based workforce.
But there's some breaking news, right, Jimmy?
There is
Because
some breaking news.
There's breaking news.
That's
because,
show of hands.
Right. They voted. And
They
they
voted
said,
by
this is
show
what
of
we're
hands.
gonna do.
And now they're saying, well, it really wasn't an official vote.
It was not.
We
an
were
official
only
vote.
kidding.
That's a good way to send up that trial balloon and then have it
Yeah.
come back and say this isn't what we should be doing. The reason we are discussing this, though, is because the whole reason that the players go out there and do what they do when they do is because people see it. It's on
Right.
television.
Correct.
They don't want to do it in the locker room because
no one would see it.
No one would see it. And
Mac Weldon would probably see it.
Very good. Very good. Undercover protest. But now you have at least one owner that we know of saying, you know what, if they want to protest and they want to go out on the field and they want to be seen by the television cameras while they're protesting, I'll go ahead and pay for it. The fines.
And it'd be a fine. And that was, I'm just trying to remember Chris Johnson of the Jets.
If you say
Woody
so.
Johnson's son, who's running the Jets.
That's part of my 80% I don't know.
Give the Jets a little credit here, because actually I thought the owner's stepping up. And he was the only one of the 31 that abstained from voting. I'm not going to vote for it, but I'm not going to vote against it. And then said, and by the way, if we get fined, I'm going to pay it.
Right.
It's an interesting thing because every person has the right to protest.
Right. But this is an old conversation that we've had in the past, Jimmy. Is football the place to be protesting in this manner? So when I turn on my TV set, to watch a football game, which I've been doing more of lately than in the past.
Yes.
Because I'm warming up.
Make sure you tune in after the national anthem.
I'm trying to educate myself about the game.
No, it's good. You are.
And want to become a fan.
Yes.
Sort of a fan. I'm a part-time fan.
Right.
But television.
Social fan.
Right. Is that what it's called?
It's called a social fan.
So not a part-time fan.
No, in fact, social fans drive the ratings. It's one of the reasons why.
Good. So I'm driving the ratings.
It's why the Super Bowl has twice the audience of the conference championships 2 weeks before, because it's become a social event.
Oh, good.
So
I'm going to wear a big SF on my my chest. Social fan.
Oh, social fan.
Right. What did you think I was saying?
I had no idea. And it came out, and I'm not quick enough to come up with an SF. I need Mike Adams. He's very good with words and numbers. Anyway.
But when I sit down to watch a Sunday afternoon game, I don't want to have to hear the play-by-play color commentators saying, is today going to be the day when yet another person will stand up? And then they'll give the history of Colin Kaepernick and how he started this whole movement. And I don't want to see that on television. I want to enjoy a game.
Okay, so
why can't this go away?
Well, it can go away, but it won't go away because there are eyeballs on the event itself, and it's entertainment.
But these guys have social media. They're able to send their message out whenever they want to, however they want to, without any restriction or danger of getting fined. Unless you're criticizing the refs, I guess. You
know what else you get fined for? This
what?
Is why the NFL really is so screwed up. If your socks are down a little bit and you're not showing enough of the color, that's a fine.
Right, you're right. But I'm saying in terms of what they
that's
say,
more important.
if they're vocal online.
Because they have an audience. They have an audience.
But these guys, some of them have a very big audience.
In social media.
So
what you're saying is you don't want protests during the workplace or at the workplace.
You know what? I don't know that I even go into it that far. It's more of from a fan perspective. I appreciate that we live in a country where you can stand up or sit down in order to make a statement about something.
Right.
I also understand that, yes, while I'm making the argument that you should do whatever you want to do on your social media feed if you have 5 million or whatever fans, it is still a big numbers game. When you stand up and do something on television for Sunday afternoon football, millions of people are watching. So you do have a captive audience. Okay, so I agree with the facts.
The facts are the facts.
The facts are the facts.
Right, and it's the behavior that you have an issue with.
When I'm wanting to just enjoy myself watching a football game,
and that is going to take away your enjoyment, whether a guy stands up or stays in the locker room or sits down or why.
I actually stopped watching football games after this all happened because that's the one place I don't want to find out about the craziness that's going on in this world. I don't want to hear.
It's an escape. This is what everybody says about football.
I don't want someone to stand up and do this, and then we hear what Trump is saying about them, and then it's conservatives.
So what happens?
Liberal,
it's usually in reaction. The athletes usually use the forum in reaction to something that happened in news or in our world, and of course there's been a lot of social injustice.
There has been,
especially against African Americans.
Well beyond that, I think this moved beyond that. Then it became kind of this cool thing to do.
Well, no, I think that there was still a lot of guys in that team that did it for that reason.
Oh no, I'm not,
to point out the fact that
some did.
Police take advantage of their authority, and they make exceptions when they're talking to African Americans. And we saw another example of it released in Milwaukee this week as well.
It happens. And we're seeing a lot, especially with the
Has it
growth
ever happened
of the
to you,
body
Dan?
cam.
Dan?
Yes.
Has it ever happened to you? Have you ever been pulled over by a policeman and been hassled?
Yep, of course.
Thank you very much.
Is my skin black?
Yes.
Okay.
At least I think so, because after all, this is a podcast.
Yes, it has happened to me, Jimmy.
Okay.
But I think, I think there are places to stand up and protest things. I think there's a time to do it as well. I had no problem at all when this all started. And you had a couple of Sundays of this wave of anger, and it all got focused at the beginning of a football game, and everyone was talking about it. You know what? I understood that. Once the point was made, then I think you needed to move that away from my football game that I was trying to enjoy to another platform to continue the conversation. And that's the problem I have with this. And so now what do we have? We have another season that's around the corner. We have this new policy that's not really a new policy. We have players that probably will stay in the locker room, but we won't know if they're in the locker room because they're still trying to get their cleats on or because they're protesting. And then we have those brave souls who will run out onto the field and will kneel down, and at least on one team we know they'll pay for it.
Right.
The fine.
That's what we know.
Yes.
So let me ask you another question, because I love
what
to
is
throw
this?
out
Is this
stuff.
ask
Dan the questions?
Yes.
First of all, why couldn't the athletes, the football players,
Yes.
instead of kneeling, turn their backs and face the fans?
Because I think then, come on, Jimmy, really? Now you're turning your
standing
back,
up.
Now you're turning your back on the flag.
Well, no, the flag's right there behind the fans.
Yeah, but it's a symbolic turning your back. If you turn your back on someone, whether they're really there or they're on television or they're over the left or the right or whatever,
you're saying,
you are turning your
as
back
an
on the
American, I have the right to protest what's going on in this country. I can use this forum, and I'm not going to disrespect the flag because I'm not kneeling. I'm standing. In fact, I got my hand over my heart.
I think you can make an argument for whether you should sit or kneel or stand or turn to the left or the right or take 2 steps forward or 2 steps back.
Right? Is that a political statement too?
It was unintended political statement. But this is more. My sense about this is more about: is this the venue to do this?
You know what's amazing? It's baseball plays 162 times a year. There aren't as many African Americans in baseball as there are percentage-wise in the National Football League.
Right. There are people of it's very diverse, but usually
more Latin
Exactly.
American.
Exactly.
And anyway, that all being said, they don't have a problem with this. No. The NBA has a policy.
Well, they have a policy.
They don't have a problem with it.
No one's going to break that policy.
Yeah.
Right. But again, I think, Jimmy,
the NFL owns a day.
That's
why.
The point has been made. The point has been made. We
I
know
think it's
what
been lost.
we know.
It's cost a guy a career.
Well, we know it has, but I'm saying that the initial point was made, and my television viewing has been interrupted by protests or co-opted or whatever you want.
How is it interrupted by protests? Because it's the same length of time. It's not like they're taking a time out in the middle of the anthem.
It's a psychological thing. It's a visual thing.
So you're allowing that to enter your psyche.
How can I not? When the play-by-play people and the color people are saying, color people, not colored people, are saying, hey, are they going to do it today? Look who's kneeling. Look who's standing. Look who's not. I mean, you can't avoid it. And yes, it's only a small piece of the show itself. But that turns me off from the whole show.
And again, another reason why up until 2009, the players stayed in the locker room before the anthem and they ran the commercials during the anthem so they could make money. Would you like to know a little history about the Star Spangled Banner?
Tell me, old thou historian.
And sports, because this was fascinating to me. First of all, the Star Spangled Banner was not designated by the president as the national anthem until 1916 and not by Congress until 1931. By the way, 10 points if you can tell me who was the president in 1916.
Can I call a friend? I have a friend who can answer that.
I think it was Teddy. No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
Because it was World War I.
Before that.
Yeah. It was Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, it could be Wilson. Was it Wilson? Yes, Wilson.
I get it. I was a history major at Tufts University. Thank God. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. And it was long favored by the military. In fact, the first time it was actually played, the guy who did it, this guy Burroughs, asked his military at West Point to stand up. And then it just kind of came, and baseball was the first sport to actually play it.
I did not realize that until you educated me prior to our show.
And let me tell you another thing about it, because I found
it was on a special day.
Not only was it special, it was 1918 World Series, and anybody from the Boston area knows who played for the Boston Red Sox in 1918 as a pitcher. It was Babe Ruth.
Woo!
And they
you didn't
did
tell
not.
Me that.
And
I knew that.
I'm glad you did. We're getting there. You're getting it 21% now. All right. So The first time it was played at a sporting event was in the World Series in 1918 in Boston in the seventh inning during the seventh inning stretch.
Wow. So it wasn't the peanut thing or taking it out to the ballpark.
No, it was not. No, they didn't. I don't think they did anything at the beginning of the game. They just played the game.
They just played the game.
What a novel approach to
Amazing.
sports.
See, let's get back to playing the game.
But, it is an opportunity to also recognize the military because that's how it's all read. If there are military members present, that's when you are supposed to rise as a military person. Now, basically, they say we should all rise. We should all salute our military. I mean, that's really how it has evolved.
Look, and I'm okay with that. I remember when in growing up, in school, you always had to stand up and you pledge allegiance and you sing and the principal comes in and you stand up. And there was just a way that, how does that have anything to do with it?
I have no idea.
What I'm saying is that you learn certain cultural and patriotic and manners as you're growing up. And I think this is all part of that, that we got as kids. And I appreciate that. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
But when it comes to disruption of any of that, while we're watching a game, take it somewhere else.
If I'm an athlete and I want to bring attention to something that I don't feel is just, and this is a peaceful protest, I have no problem if the guy kneels, turns around, sings Yankee Doodle Dandy. I don't care.
Wow.
There were only 10,274 spectators at the 1918 Red Sox World Series, just for the record. I just thought I'd throw that out there, too.
What kind of numbers
and
do
it
they get
became a
nowadays?
fixture of baseball.
Right.
Okay.
By now, if we only had 10,000 now, we wouldn't be able to watch it on TV. There'd be a blackout.
There'd be a blackout. That's right.
Okay.
Anyway, that's a little history lesson. That was a little history lesson.
Mr. Librarian.
I found it fascinating.
Now I'm changing your name from Reverend to Mr. Librarian.
No, I like Reverend better.
Reverend?
I used it last night in jest, and people liked the idea.
Okay,
too.
Reverend Librarian then.
Reverend.
If you like this episode, let us know. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter. Have any questions or comments? Of course, you can always reach out to us at info@littlepartmedia.com. That's info@littlepartmedia.com. The EPA, or the longer name, Environmental Protection Agency, holds a public event but doesn't roll out the welcome mat for everyone. Welcome to this episode of Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media so you don't have to go searching for it. Like us on Facebook, use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter, and listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Mack Weldon. It's a premium men's essentials brand that Jimmy is wearing today. For 20% off your first order like Jimmy got, visit MackWeldon.com and enter promo code CLNS at checkout. We're also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com. So, the EPA. They were holding this summit, Jimmy, on toxic chemicals that were linked to cancer. It's a public event.
It was a light subject to talk about.
Exactly. I mean, serious subject.
But a public event. A public event.
Public event. So news press releases typically go out. You know what's on the agenda, on the docket. You show up to
It's your job.
It's your job.
To be there.
To be there.
To talk about the facts.
Exactly.
Except for one thing.
Certain people were not allowed to go in. It's not as if there was some secret being discussed at this event.
Doesn't the environment affect all of us?
It does.
Right, left,
now, Jimmy,
conservative, radical.
Do you think this had anything to do with the environment?
Barring them?
Right.
No, it didn't.
No,
Dan.
it didn't. It had.
We know what goes on behind the media.
There, exactly. Wow, you are sharp today. Man, this was more poking certain news organizations in the eye.
Poking them in the eye or another body part, as it might be.
Yeah,
okay?
So you have CNN.
And by the way, a female AP reporter
was shoved.
We're talking assault.
Yeah, exactly.
And what did she do, being an eyewitness reporter?
She
pulled out her phone.
And took a picture. Exactly. She wanted to see this press officer when she was barred from going in, and the security guard said, "No, you can't come in." I think that this is. We've seen a certain level of hostility now for a little while towards reporters.
You think?
I think every time that you think you've seen it all comes yet another disturbing incident, and this is one of those. I mean, I don't know how you can justify something like this. It's either open to everyone or it's closed to everyone. You can't make a selection as to who gets in for a public event. Now, I understand if you have some private thing going on at the White House, some kind of a meeting, and you decide, you know what, we're just going to have one person come in.
And here's what we talked about. Here are the notes.
That's fine. But this is a public where the general public, is my understanding, were allowed to come in, and they apparently, the excuse was there's not enough room.
Yeah.
Enough room for one more person to stand with a tiny little camera?
No, I think it had to do with the fact that credential takes up so much room.
Well, it could. They're making those very, big and boisterous.
They are
those,
very
those
big,
credentials.
So you can't miss it.
And the lanyards,
they take up a lot of room.
The string could trip someone up. So you don't
take
want
up a
that.
lot of room. Very scary, though, the underlying thing that they political climate in Washington, D.C. has allowed this to boil and now boil over to the point where they can actually bar people they don't like who, because of their reporting,
right,
to come to public events. I'm sorry, that is not a democracy. And again, it goes to this war against the media.
Exactly.
And
and it's just wrong. And the thing is, they're doing
their jobs.
We're all taxpayers, reporters as well, and these people who are barring them coming in are being paid for. Their jobs, their positions are being paid for by the taxpayer. Who are they to tell you that you can't come in and cover something which is in the public interest? Now, so we're not talking about something that maybe it's a subject matter of should we paint the lanes a certain shade of yellow as opposed to the current shade of yellow. No, this is some serious information that the public needed to know about, and certain news organization, very specific to, it was CNN, it was the Associated Press, it was also an organization which I wasn't aware of, E&E, which is the Energy and Environment News. They were told that they couldn't come in.
That's a very controversial media too.
Never
heard of them. By the way, they're so controversial.
Never heard of them.
Never heard of them. But they're the ones who probably say, "Hey, there is something called climate change, which doesn't exist."
Yes, exactly.
Again, he's feeding this. He who shall not be named is feeding this hateful doctrine, this line in the sand. Now, Dan, it says in this article that we're reading and talking about that it's not new for press officers to ban certain media organizations. And it's been going on for a long time.
This has been going on.
It is not unique to this administration. Did you hear that come out of my mouth?
Wow.
I'm looking at the camera.
I think you're
it
getting
is not
more,
unique.
You're
Don't
leaning
say
more,
it. No. I'm leaning in the same direction.
Okay.
Thank you very
but maybe
much.
the wind is blowing you one direction.
I'm just stating a fact.
Maybe you're being steadied a little bit.
I'm stating a fact that this is not the only
so
time.
Unlike you.
But it sure feeds what's going on in D.C.
It does. And again, I like to point out that I worked at the White House for CNN, covering the Obama administration, part of the Bush administration. I had been there under the Bush administration as well with NBC many years prior to that. And I've seen these kind of things.
Right?
Well, no,
not HW.
Not HW.
Okay.
Although I did, I interviewed him when I was working in radio, but I did not cover his White House.
Cool.
But I think so these kinds of things, these kinds of things happen. You're right in pointing out that I remember President Obama one time or his administration refusing to allow Fox to attend an event. So if they believe that there's a particular news organization that's providing unflattering coverage of their administration or their policies, then they often will do these kinds of things. But it's what we're seeing here is a pattern. It's not a one-off, or it happens just at certain times when they decide they're going to go after a news organization after a long period of unflattering news. It happens all the time. The more disturbing thing is that no one seems to mind. The public seems, if you support the administration, then they're applauding. It's like, oh, you don't deserve, you guys are, you aren't doing fair and balanced news, and so you don't need to be in there.
As much of a target as the current climate in Washington, D.C. is.
And as you go there to be targeted by
that
climate.
The media has been a target for a long time.
They have.
And
yes, we have.
And again, because what's our what is the power of the media? Sure, we can print something, we can talk about this, we can bring attention to it.
You can sign the light on.
Kind of like being a National Football League player, taking advantage of people watching you. Sorry, I had to say. No,
you are out there doing a job, shining the light on just information, general information, uncovering cockroaches that might be running around in the basement somewhere,
You know,
wrongdoing and so
The
forth.
only thing I'm allergic to is
Cockroaches?
Cockroaches. It's the strangest thing.
How can you be allergic to a cockroach?
I took the test. You know, the prickle test.
So they had cockroaches.
And because I lived in the city of Boston,
Yeah.
they said, "Oh, I got to check for
Oh my
cockroaches,"
goodness. We have
and
to
the
do
thing
a show
blew
on
up.
cockroaches in the media. Oh my goodness.
How do you tell the difference?
Yeah, how do you tell? Oh man.
I couldn't resist.
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't resist, but I feel bad
think
for our fellow
reporters
comrades, our
are out
former
there,
comrades.
and some of them are giving their lives overseas.
Right.
In order for us to sit here in our living rooms,
They're news
and read
gathering.
and watch the wrongs that are being done across the globe. It is an important function. That is part of a democratic society, and I think we are
keep
seeing
getting
that
away from
undermined.
that.
Yeah, we are.
We talk about that a lot
We're
on
way
this
down
show.
the road away from it.
Right.
you
We know that our favorite broadcast organization that constantly does it, that starts with an S and ends in an R and rhymes with
satellite radio.
No.
What?
Sinclair.
Oh, Sinclair Broadcasting. Yes.
I mean,
where's the R?
Sinclair.
Right. Oh, the word ends with an R.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, I thought you were talking about the title of the whole thing.
No.
Anyway, it's not something, and I know we are on that list, and I've mentioned it many times. We're way at the top of the list as to most hated professions. When people look at you, it's like, you're a journalist.
And yet there are still a lot of people who want to go into this business.
They do,
want
and I'm glad. And it's
to
an
serve the public.
Yeah, and make money, but serve the public. But I think it is important for us it's important for the American people not to go down this path whereby everything that every reporter says and every news organization says, unless it agrees with what my political leanings are, it's wrong, it's fake, I don't like it. And I think that's a bad thing. We're already there. I mean, that's kind of how it is.
So how do we undo it?
Well,
Dan?
I don't know.
I mean, we're talking about it.
I don't know how we can undo it.
I mean, I think that the organizations of CNN and AP and the EE News, Energy and Environment News, I may have to subscribe to their newsletter now.
Yes, you might.
Just because I actually believe
and try to
in
stay
climate
awake
change.
while you read all that.
I like weather and climate change.
I do too.
by
If it affects where I'm going, my
right.
weekend
Do
plans.
I need an umbrella or don't I? You
Yes,
need
I
that
do.
kind of thing.
Yes,
Do I need a coat or don't I need a coat? All right.
You never wear a
Bottom
coat.
line is, though, this is, again, another example of the decline of democracy. And I think that
agree
it
with you
is
on that.
really scary.
It is scary, and every time I see something like this, I don't want to grow accustomed to it. I don't want to sit there and go, "Oh, it's nothing." I want to be outraged every time I see this, every time I hear it, every time I read it. I want to be outraged because the day I stop being outraged is the day that our society really slides downhill, right? I mean, that's yet another. I think journalism is this important tool that shines the light on things that we all need to know about and be aware of. And when we are discredited, that is an important function of our society that's completely undermined.
I mean, it's censorship. It
It
really
is.
is
It really
censorship,
is.
and that is not a good thing in any society, any modern society. It's why we said, are we turning the progress clock backwards now?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. And
Stop it. Cut it out.
Yeah.
Stop what you're doing. Let everybody in, Mr. President and administration people. And I say the same thing to whoever the next president is, on the left or the right, wherever you are. And I also castigate those in the past, like President Obama, who always did these, not always, but sometimes did these kinds of things. And I remember even when I saw it happening, I thought it was unfair. There were times when we decided not to cover something because Fox
he banned Fox
right.
or somebody like that.
You either,
I like that.
You either let us all in or we're going to. I will stand with my fellow reporters. I don't care what organization you work for. We all should have access. And if we don't all have access, then we all shouldn't go in.
Right. So did you stand or take a knee when you sang the national anthem during that time?
Well,
No,
I wasn't singing the anthem, but
All right.
I stood.
All right. Fair
I
enough.
did stand. I didn't stay in the locker room. Okay. Bell, please.
No.
Maybe
You're
not.
going to read the tag. That was a premature bell.
Oh, it's a premature bell.
Sorry.
This will only continue, Jimmy, and so we need to stop this.
Do you think it's going to be the death of local news? I saw this and
No.
I was like, the death of local news.
No.
That's a reach, Dan.
That was because that was a typo from the last time, Jimmy.
Sorry.
If you
I apologize. Sorry. Delete. Just delete.
Delete.
That's all we did was that little delete key.
I did it. It didn't delete.
All right.
If you like this episode, let us know. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag #BehindTheMedia to engage with us on Twitter. Have any questions or comments? Reach out to us at info@littlepartmedia.com. That's info@littlepartmedia.com.
We could just blame it on technology, too.
You can.
But everybody hates technology.
Just blame it on, or you could blame it on the rain.
Okay.
But that's a song, right?
Yes.
Yes. Was it Prince?
I'm
on
so
rain.
unhip.
I think it's a Prince song.
I believe you.
But reach out to us and correct us if we're wrong. It's halftime. This show is powered by Mack Weldon. It's a premium men's essentials brand. Jimmy has ordered.
I got them on, pal. I
undergarments.
got them on.
He has them on. Tell us about your experience, Jimmy.
Okay. Don't forget these are
they're
sponsors.
New. You got to break it. You have to break them in.
Yes, and in fact, one's actually good. Two of them are going through the laundry right now. The wash as we speak.
Because you have to do that. You have to kind of loosen them up. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to.
So let me ask you a question.
Yes.
When you get a new shirt, right? When you get a new shirt, do you wear it right out of the bag, or do you always wash it?
Always wash it.
Yeah.
Always wash them. You have to, because clothing has dye on it. Some I don't know about them.
The dye's going to get on my skin. It's going to wash off with soap.
No, I don't know what they did with it. I want to wash it.
All
I
I
want to
can
loosen it
tell
up.
you
I don't
is-
want cardboard scraping on me.
All I can tell you is a very soft cotton and
really?
spandex mix.
You like it?
I do like it.
You
I
like-
do.
you like
I will
you.
say this, that I have an odd. This is going to sound a little
Oh,
weird.
here we go.
Okay.
Children,
I have a 34 to 35 inch waist, so I'm kind of caught between the large and the extra large size.
Oh.
So I figured I went.
Is that in the
extra
median
large.
of a highway or in a
Something
country
like that.
road?
But anyway, I went with the extra large because figuring I could shrink these things. But because it's less than 50% cotton, that ain't going to happen. All I can tell you is I really like the product. It's well reviewed, I might add. A lot of people who have tried it have liked it. And I love the fact that they're sponsoring this show because, after all, we are two wild and crazy guys. And I'm not wearing it, and I like it.
Well, you are. You look
And I
like
found
a
it
Mack
very
Weldon
reasonably
guy.
priced, I might add. I even got a shaving kit, too.
Oh,
because I
you went
needed one of
crazy.
those. I need one of those, and I really like that.
Wow. Well, very good. Whatever
Okay.
you're wearing right now, ladies and gentlemen, or gentlemen,
Yeah.
Mack Weldon is much better, as Jimmy has just pointed out. Mack Weldon believes in smart designs, premium fabrics, and simple shopping. It's the winning formula. Mack Weldon will be the most comfortable underwear, socks, shirts, undershirts, hoodies, and sweatpants you've ever placed on your lovely body. You got to take care of your body, so why not do it with Mack Weldon? Get on board with the people who know. For 20% off your first order, visit MackWeldon.com. Enter promo code CLNS at checkout.
And yes, I got 20% off.
You got 20%.
Thanks to our friends at CLNS.
Yeah, should have gotten it for free. This show is also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts that tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com.
Didn't need to be reminded of.
Yeah, exactly. Now we know why President Trump beats up the media, the best kept secret in television news. But wait, there's more. Welcome to this episode of Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media, so you don't have to go searching for it. Like us on Facebook, use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter, and listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Mack Weldon. It's a premium men's essentials brand. For 20% off your first order, visit MackWeldon.com and enter promo code CLNS at checkout. We're also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com. So, back in the 2016 campaign, CBS 60 Minutes correspondent Leslie Stahl sits
a
down.
13-time Emmy Award winner.
Yeah, she sits down, has an exclusive interview with then candidate
Trump.
Yes.
I wonder if she's regretting that right now. Just want to say.
So she got, I don't recall this interview, but at the time, if you could get an interview with him, I guess it was a big deal, right?
And
Anytime.
Look, and
you
we
can.
love 60 Minutes. They're probably the
love them.
best show on television.
Best show all these years later.
It's
Still
just-
the best show on
It's incredible
television.
because they tell great news stories.
Right. The problem is, in this case, they may have told a great news story in this interview, but she left out a juicy little tidbit.
Yeah, which became more of a juicy tidbit now.
Now that it has come out.
Right.
Because it's not only just the blueprint of why we're seeing what we're seeing, but it's an effective
It explains.
it explains how this campaign against the media, what's the thinking behind it.
Right.
And so anyway,
It was fake news. It was really the origin,
the birth
of the
of fake news and attacking the news media.
Correct.
And so we only found out about this is because she was having at an event with Judy Woodruff, who's one of my former colleagues from CNN, wonderful lady, works over at PBS now, and they were doing, one of those bring on an expert or someone in the media to talk about something important that they did. And she's talking about this interview that she had conducted with President Trump. And this is where we learn that she asked him a question about why don't you stop? Why don't you stop beating up on reporters?
And then he said...
And he said what?
Would you like me to...
Yeah, go ahead.
Get to play POTUS here?
Yeah, go ahead. Be POTUS. Since you like him so much these days.
Hair. All right. He said, you know why I do it?
Why?
Said POTUS.
Why do you do it?
I do it to discredit you all media types and demean you all, so when you write negative stories about me, no one will believe you.
Amazing.
That is a narcissist. That's the definition, is it not?
So basically, you just start, even if you don't believe it, you make up things about someone so that if that someone says something or when that someone says something that's negative about you, nobody will believe it.
It goes back to my whole theory that he never expected to win this. He wanted to start his own media company.
That's what you think was behind it all.
100%. I'm totally convinced you can, if I ever get the chance to find out, which, by the way, never happened, sit down with the guy, all right? And I'll never want to ever be in the same room as this guy.
But he'll admit it to you, and then you won't tell us for another 2 years, perhaps.
Now, let me ask you a question. Yeah. As a longtime news reporter, have you ever done an interview with someone and then realized after a period of time that perhaps you left out something, or there was did you ever bury the lead?
No.
Right. I mean, that's really important.
Right. No.
Why would you think that was a lead? You know what I mean? That almost would come off to me, if she used that in her story, that would have come off to me as being defensive.
Well, okay. So I think there are two things at play here. Yes, I have neglected to have things in my story sometimes, in hindsight, looking at it and saying, I should have asked this question.
Right. Or forgotten a question.
Right. Maybe I forgot a question. Or maybe, after I was done doing that interview.
I wanted to ask you about that.
There was some other issue that maybe I should have played up a little bit more in hindsight. But I don't know that I've ever had a piece of juicy information that I just left out of the story. Now, that's my first thing. The second thing is, I'm trying to think back. If you really didn't think that he was going to win, and at the time he was always it was almost as if it was this playful criticism of the media, would you think it was that important at that point? And that's what I think we have to kind of take our heads back to what it was to that time. And yes, he was always kind of poking fun at the media, but
because we thought that was helping him get attention.
Right, exactly. So it was viewed in a different way. So I could almost see from an editorial standpoint, we hadn't yet gotten the full wave of fake news, and we hadn't experienced what we have now. And so, through these glasses, it's very easy to see why, make that criticism, say, why didn't you put it out there? But I still think it was worth a mention even then of some sort. Maybe not being your lead.
Right. It could be a second story.
It could be a second story. It could have been the tag. For those of you who aren't familiar with how that works as a reporter, you put as much as you can stuff into your story. You have a live element, and that's where you put things that didn't get into your piece but you thought were important that needed to be said. Now you have online as well. There's another thing. They could have rolled out an extra segment on online, on the app,
plus,
however they
sometimes
want to do it.
online,
and they do that for 60 minutes.
They give you the entire interview unedited.
Exactly. And so I don't know, and I tried to see if there was any explanation as to why she did not include it, and I couldn't find that. Perhaps they just didn't think it was relevant at the time.
Now, it came out in an interview with
Judy Woodruff. Yeah, and they were talking about what was it like covering the campaign back then and Donald Trump, and all of a sudden this comes out, and she actually made a mistake, or somebody made a mistake in the initial explanation of how this all went down. CBS or a lot of the papers who were following up on this story were reporting that this happened after he became president. He's president-elect. Which I don't know that shifts the story too much, but nonetheless, they had to then several hours later, make a correction that in fact it wasn't when he was president-elect, but it happened while he was running for office. It was before he had been elected.
What about this
president.
poll that was taken in April that found 3 out of 4 Americans believe traditional news organizations report fake news?
Well, I think it all feeds into that. It works, right? That means that if, in fact, as he mentioned to her, he really meant it, that this was his strategy to discredit the media, and I think it has been very effective. Every time I meet people, if they are, if they tend to be critical in general of, what they term as the liberal media, then they will basically look at you and say it's all fake news.
Yeah, I hate that word.
We didn't use that term. That wasn't a term. There was a time when we used fake news, but it was fake news. Right. It was made up stuff by these news.
Educated media.
It was
not liberal.
Right.
Educated.
But there was a time when people made stuff up.
Is not prejudicing
right.
your spin on a story. The journalists that I know are educated. They're really smart. They do their research.
And they make mistakes.
Sure,
they do
human.
Make mistakes.
They're still human. And we've talked about the human element in reporting
and
all the time.
there's always been this thing called retractions.
So why does the media have to be called the liberal media? Because Fox is not the liberal media, and they're still media.
Yeah, they're
okay.
But
they're educated. Even the Fox
divide.
media people are educated.
You know what? It's labels that will help to divide and conquer.
Right.
That's what it is. That's
problem.
what it's all about.
And that's the problem.
It is a big problem.
Huge. And it's not getting any better right now.
No. And, we figured that this probably was behind the thinking and this strategy, if in fact it was a well-thought-out strategy or just kind of shooting from the hip.
Which is the way he lives anyway.
Right. But I think hearing this, kind of makes you say, okay, yeah, I get it now. I understand. I would love for the president to come out and actually say, you know what, I really do love reporters and I love what they're doing. And because now that I've accomplished what I was I set out to do.
Right.
But I think it's sad when we've come to that, right? You should be able, as a politician, to take the good and the bad. When you're in front of the camera as a reporter, I like it when people come up and say, I enjoyed that story that you did. You did a great job. I don't like it when people come up and say, hey, you suck. But at the same time, I realize that they have a right to say, hey, you suck.
Right.
And, if I didn't want to hear that, then I would have gone and I would have ended up having a flower shop.
There you go.
Which there's nothing wrong with a flower shop, but that's what I would have done. Although you know what? Bridezillas might. Yeah, they'll give you a hard time. Bridezillas give you a hard time if you own a flower shop.
Okay.
So they'll say, you suck.
All right.
The flowers were wilted.
How many times have you heard someone say, I really enjoy your work versus you suck? It's still, come on. You have those awards. A lot of people enjoyed your work. That's the ultimate. It's the nicest thing you can say to a performer, to a reporter, anyone who delivers information, whatever it is, for whatever purpose, to the public. Okay?
Yeah, but you know what?
I enjoy your work.
It depends. So when I don't like it is when I do a story on let's say a government organization, right? And then they say, you know what? I really enjoyed that story that you did. Then I start saying, maybe I wasn't hard enough. Maybe it just, maybe I should have pushed a little more. Or I don't like to hear when I'm doing something on an agency, I don't really want to hear that was a good job.
Really?
I'd rather hear you did a fair job.
Fair.
I would rather have that than good job. Yes.
Well, maybe they meant fair.
Maybe they did.
They used the word good.
It could be, but
balance.
I don't want. Yeah,
balance is another great word.
If they use balance, that's what I'd like. I don't want them to think that I did I did a special piece that they can use to promote whatever they're doing.
Yep.
I did it because it was something that needed to be reported on, and tell me that I did it well in providing a balanced approach to it or whatever it may be. But just saying, hey, that was a good piece. I don't want to hear that from them. But if you hear it from your bosses, that's a good thing.
Right. And the other thing I used to hear from fans of mine, and there were at least 2.
Oh, really?
There were 2.
There was you and your brother?
No,
was that it?
No, it's just saying. I enjoy your work. Or, hey, do you think the Bruins are going to win the Stanley Cup? And usually that happened in a bar somewhere. I just want to say, I had that question multiple times.
Mine is always, if you cover a particular beat, what is that person like? Hey, what's President Obama like?
Who's going to win tonight?
Yeah, or who's going to
How the hell do I know? I mean, I could give you this side and that side and look at this way and that way.
You
but
should flip a coin.
Yeah, well,
That's who's going to win.
Now
that
that sports gambling's here.
Ooh, that's right. And we'll talk about that coming up in the fourth quarter. Yeah. As Paul Harvey would say, and now you know the rest of the story. If you like this episode, let us know. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter. Have any questions or comments? Let us know at info@littlepartmedia.com. That's info@littlepartmedia.com. It's the fourth quarter. Are you ready to consume some bites behind the media? For those who can't eat the whole meal, we're serving up a few pieces. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
This is Behind the Media. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter. And listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Mack Weldon. It's a premium men's essentials brand that today, and today only, or maybe another day, Jimmy happens to be wearing underneath his lavender, pink, mauve. What color is that?
I have blue jeans on, and I'm wearing underwear.
What is your shirt?
It's red.
Okay, red. That's not red.
It says red.
Is it? Okay, we'll have to talk to someone who is watching right now and tell us what color
I have a
that
little bit of problem with fashion, I just want to say. I do have a little issue between the reds and the pinks.
But
and the
Jimmy
blues.
has no issue with the fashion underneath his shirt and his pants. That's because he's wearing Mack Weldon products. For 20% off your first order, because you'd love to join Jimmy, you can go to MackWeldon.com, enter promo code CLNS at checkout. We're also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com. So here we go. We have a lot in the fourth quarter in the bites.
Lots of appetizers.
Lots of appetizers.
Small plates,
so,
as they say.
Yeah, small plates. And so the first one, Jimmy.
Talk about orbiting, latest social media.
You're confused by this.
Yeah,
one.
totally am. And I'm glad that you explained it to me because I think I kind of understand it now.
Okay, let me break it down.
But that just is...
So you know ghosting. So ghosting is you go out on a date with someone, and after the date, you're expecting to have this wonderful follow-up, maybe.
Hey, thanks for the date. A little text or some kind of...
No, you're ghosted. You're gone.
Ghosted. What does that mean?
That means they don't follow you. They don't talk to you. They don't have a conversation with you. They basically blow you off. Ghosting is a social media way of blowing you off.
Okay.
You're ghosted. So now comes orbiting. So there are those who they go out on a date and they're expecting to have that communication, and they think they've been blown off because there's no further communication that's happening, except in orbiting. They're little crumbs that they're watching, that they're lurking.
So they're watching you on Twitter and,
and
on Facebook and Instagram.
They're liking things. If you do something, they might comment on something.
So your name shows up as a liker.
Right.
Boy, am I deep when it comes to social media. Huh?
So your name shows up as a liker, yes.
Yeah, okay.
You kind of hover around and you look at things. Sometimes you don't even have to like it. You have to just open it up, I guess, and watch the video, and it says that you've watched it. And so you're still involved in their world, in their orbit.
Of information that they share on social media.
But you're not
I get it
actually having a conversation with them.
Well, nobody talks to anybody anyway.
Well, they don't, but some do through texting and so forth.
Well, of course, on a date, you have to talk to somebody.
Right, but on the follow-up here, there is no conversation that's happening.
But they feel like they're communicating.
You are communicating through orbiting.
Right.
And there's someone who actually coined this phrase recently, and in this article that was written, and then it went viral. So now the new word is orbiting. And you can talk about how, yeah, man, this person's orbiting around me. They blew me off.
But it's not stalking.
No, because you want to have that follow-up conversation. So I don't know that it's stalking, because stalking would be something that you don't want to happen to you.
Right.
In this case, you probably went out and wanted to have that follow-up conversation to know how it went. And
they're blowing you off.
But they're blowing you off, sort of.
Sort of blowing you off.
Sort of blowing you off. So they're orbiting. They're not communicating.
I don't know.
They're not ghosting. They're orbiting.
Hey, did you like me or didn't you like me?
Yeah.
Do you want to get together again or don't you want to get together again? Really? Do I have a shot or don't I have a shot?
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. That's what you want to know.
Nah, just orbit. Just orbit and like. Oh, I like that picture. Beautiful sunset.
Oh, yeah.
I watched the video.
pick up the phone
Yeah, I
and
think-
call.
Come to think of it, I think I've orbited.
Do these people even know how to use a phone anymore?
I don't know. Orbiting is kind of safe.
Actually, we're using our phone for our third camera.
Oh,
today.
that's right. High third camera.
Another use of the phone.
Yeah, it's sharp. A very sharp picture.
It's very sharp.
Yes.
High
Okay.
def.
Snap to attention. And Snap also happens to be the parent company of Snapchat. And what are they doing, Jimmy?
I have no idea because you brought this up, and I don't know Snapchat. I know it exists. I know
what it
people
is.
use. I know what it is.
Okay.
I've seen it used, and again, I don't use it. Therefore, I'm ghosting. Ghosting.
You're ghosting.
I'm ghosting.
Well,
Snap.
you know what? I'm orbiting. I'm orbiting. I'm orbiting Snap because my son uses it and others, and I kind of float around, and I might snap turtle, whatever you do.
Snapchat.
I don't know what you do, but I do
Okay.
orbit in that
So
way.
what are
so
they doing?
They're putting together an accelerator, which is bringing in. It's not quite the incubator, but it's bringing in, creating the environment to identify great startup ideas that are the next media venture. So they're not just sitting there waiting for something to be started somewhere and then snapping
Are
it
they
up.
kicking around ideas? Or are they doing research
No.
on new companies?
No. It is an accelerator is inviting people to come in with ideas and help to foster those ideas and create, turn ideas and maybe fledgling companies into big booming companies. Most will probably fail, but if you have them in-house, so to speak, as part of this accelerator, then if it turns into something, you get a piece of the action. That's usually what happens. So that's what they're doing.
Okay, I'm
looking
available.
they're looking for they're looking for the next big thing.
All right.
Okay, sports betting. This is your line. Ooh,
Well-
how'd you like that?
Okay.
Sports betting.
Oh,
This
so
is your
I get.
line.
Should I read this?
I don't know. No, you shouldn't read it.
Oh.
That's just there as notes. That's all.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can read the first part. We'll legalize
sport. I know how to read. Will legalized sports betting be good for the media? Some think so.
And you had asked me, how in the world?
Is it going to be good for the media? Because
Right.
it gives them another thing to report on, a point spread.
Exactly.
Or, this team, you got to bet $100 to win. There's going to be so many different elements of this. And by the way, similar to the emerging cannabis industry, they now have to write the rules and regulations in each state.
But that's right.
This
There's
is what
not
the
gonna be a
federal
national-
government. Federal government, okay, you can do sports betting now in the states. Just leave us alone.
That's right. The Supreme Court, there was a ruling by the Supreme Court
Yes.
that kind of effectively legalized sports betting. And the reason, as you pointed out, that this could be a big boom is because they drive about, the sports betting in general drives about $7 billion in incremental U.S. spend. So
But
that's
it's
marketing
ad spend, so it's
ad
interesting.
spend,
It's not
right.
the gambling dollars.
No, it's the ad.
Do
you remember
it's the
when-
enticement dollars in
Yes,
advertising?
So,
right.
do you remember, what was it, 2-3 years ago when you had the two, what are the two ones? that the two betting?
FanDuel
You
and
had
DraftKings.
FanDuel and DraftKings.
They tried to get together. Couldn't do it.
I don't know that there was anywhere where you could walk in this area
Right.
and not be bombarded by ads.
Right.
I remember
And it was the same damn
same,
ad. too.
it's like it went nonstop. You heard it on radio.
Yeah.
You saw it on television.
Yeah.
Airplanes were flying
Right.
overhead
So in
with
that
banners
case, the
at
media
train station.
loves this idea.
Yes, because they're going to get quite a bit. It's estimated about half of the money, so about half of the $7 billion is going to go to digital advertising. And therein lies the positive impact
On the media.
On the
And
media.
there'll also be
Yes.
new jobs, and there'll be more jobs, and I like that. And, don't forget, every state, for the most part, has a lottery.
Right.
So they've been in the gambling business, wink, wink, for a long time.
But not around sports.
But not around sports,
Right.
although a lot of those lottery tickets have a sports theme to them. Okay,
yes.
but now it's going to be very interesting. And don't forget, isn't it interesting? I'm just throwing this out there. I have no evidence about this. I'm just throwing out an interesting factoid.
Isn't that great? You can do that on a podcast.
Absolutely. That the Vegas Golden Knights, the first sports expansion team out of Las Vegas, Nevada, where betting is legal.
Yes.
Okay. They're in the Stanley Cup against the Washington Capitals, the hometown team of Washington, D.C.
Las Vegas has a
a hockey team.
They have a hockey team.
Actually,
what is
Dan,
their name?
they've had the Golden Knights. They've had
You're not
they've been
joking,
playing
right?
all season.
The Golden Knights?
Yes, Dan.
I did not. I've never heard that name before.
Well, because you are an 80-20 guy, after
Oh
all.
my goodness.
That's right. There are plenty of look. I didn't know what ghosting was, or orbiting, or Snapchat.
Now you know.
And now I do.
You knew what
that's because I
Snapchat
listen.
was.
So yes, there's an expansion team in Las Vegas.
Did not know that. Wow.
Okay,
I learned
so it's
something new
hockey.
today.
The sport is hockey.
That's the one where you have a ball? No, a puck.
It's a puck on ice.
And a stick.
And I guarantee you that even Dan knows what's the name of the trophy that is awarded at the end of the best of 7-7.
Teacher.
Go, Dan.
Could it be Stanley?
Yes, Stanley Cup.
Oh,
the Stanley
my
Cup
goodness,
will
yes.
be skated over the next 2 weeks.
Oh, great. I'm excited about that.
Either in Las Vegas or in Washington, D.C.
What happened? Didn't Florida have someone in there? There was like a
Tampa Bay Lightning played in the finals against
against
Washington, and the Caps finally won.
Because I was
And
down
we're
there
happy
last
about that
weekend,
because
and they
the
had
Caps
signs everywhere, and people had it on their. I didn't know what that was.
The amazing.
Lightning? I thought, oh yeah, there is lightning today. There's a storm, and I realized it was
Tampa,
more than
Florida.
Yes.
May be the worst sports market in America. The Red Sox played in Tampa. They had like
I'm
5,000
from that
people
area.
at this baseball. I know,
are
but
you making fun of me? Where
no,
I
it's
come from?
nothing new.
You're making fun of my people?
No, what I want your people to do is show up and support their local teams.
Well, they suck usually. Like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They used to be good back in the day. Dewey Selman. Was his name? Dewey?
Yes. Dewey
Leroy
Selman.
and Dewey Selman.
Wow, very good. Now this is good. So can you name a player from the current Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Oh, I'm not going to do that.
I have no idea. Are they still around?
Yes.
They are still around. Oh, yeah. No.
All right. So
I couldn't do that. Can you?
Isn't it interesting, again, going back to the betting,
Yes.
that a team from the betting capital of the United States is playing for the Lord Stanley Cup against the national capital team, the Washington Capitals.
My head's spinning.
It's interesting. I just find it. I'm not throwing anything out there as a conspiracy or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Jimmy.
All right.
I feel
that's why I knew I had a place here to do something. Historical facts.
You are Mr.
And sports facts.
Reverend Librarian today. Is the lack of media diversity responsible for bad news coverage? So we're not just talking about, African Americans or Asians or that kind of thing. We're talking about just the diversity of people, ideas, economic backgrounds.
Right. Low income that's it. I will say this: a lot of members of the media are from low income because they don't make a lot of money.
Well, once they become members of the media, they go into the low income run until they work their way up.
Yeah.
Then you become mid income.
Now, who brought this up?
So there's this. There was a study that was done that was looking at the kinds of news stories that most news organizations tend to gravitate to. So it's the scandal stuff, right? It's the.
But isn't it also like the Washingtonian, where they've had the insensitive cover for Washington D.C.?
Well, yeah, we were going to talk about that in another podcast, and we ran out of time. But that was an important.
But is that not a good example of this?
That's a good example where there are a lot of these boneheaded mistakes that are being made, mistakes in quotes, where things that you would, when you look at it, it's like, how in the world did they do that? And the reason is because the kinds of people who are in the seat of power, the editors, the executive producers, aren't being influenced by a diverse cast of characters who can open their eyes to some of the crazy ideas that they have.
Right, because for the most part, we like to be comfortable surrounded by people who are like us.
Right. Yes, we do. It's your friends. It's the people who went to your school. It's the people who grew up in your neighborhood.
Right.
It's the people who came from your state, from your social status, whatever it may be. And then the more that happens, the more of those kind of people will end up in those positions. And so what's happening now, the Multicultural Media Correspondents Association, which I didn't. Yeah.
Are you a member of that?
Because
if there's anybody who's multicultural, it's you.
I am multicultural,
yes, you
ladies
are.
and gentlemen.
I would not be.
I'm not just black. I'm multicultural.
Yes, you are.
I can be un puertorriqueño, un cubano. Yo soy de Jamaica también. Oh, I can be whatever I want.
Was that Greek you were speaking?
No, that was Spanish.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, and
it was Greek to me.
So, and we can even talk some Patwa no man. So they're asking Congress to pass a resolution that reaffirms its commitment to media diversity. Sounds like it's just more of a statement kind of thing. There's no teeth in this at all.
Why are they asking that? Leave the Congress alone.
I think it's trying to draw attention to this issue. It's
themselves.
Clearly an issue, and that too.
Okay, so it worked.
Yes,
it worked.
We talked about it. It was a bite. What else, Jimmy?
I got nothing.
I thought you had another
Oh
thing.
no, this is actually
You got
nothing.
it. You got it
This is
sitting right there in front of
absolutely
you.
one of the most
So
important
why did you say
things
you've got nothing?
Because I completely forgot about it.
Even though it's right there in
It's
color.
In color.
Okay,
All right,
go ahead.
and this was an article. Again, we are coming to you from Little Park Media in Wellesley, Massachusetts.
Yes.
Our studios here, which is just outside of Boston, Massachusetts.
With a third camera now
and there's
that's very nice
right,
and not,
very cool,
not a little
right.
soft.
Hiawatha. That means I can write off all the cell phones.
So that's the whole
things.
reason you
Sure.
wanted to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
A portion of it.
Yes.
Hiawatha Bray, who's a very local, techie, insightful reporter for the Boston Globe, says, and here's the headline. Again, headlines sometimes don't have anything to do with the story, but in this case,
It does.
FBI warns consumers about malware aimed at internet routers. Now, malware
I thought that was
is
like
bad.
clothing that didn't fit.
No, that's malware.
Oh, okay.
Malware. Anyway, malware aimed at internet routers. And I'm reading this article, and of course, I am not the most technically savvy person. I think I know what a router is. That's
Yeah.
the little piece of plastic that's in the house that you get the internet from.
Yeah, I think you could call it that. Or isn't it also the thing that you drill holes with? That's a router.
That's a router, too.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
different kind of router.
Right.
Yes.
And of course, the television stations, they have a routing
You
station.
press
where
button
where
in
you
order to
press
pull up
buttons to
different-
get to the different things that are inputted into
Right.
this thing.
And also, I think there's a biblical reference in the routing her out of a house.
Okay.
So that means to chase someone out of a house.
Okay.
So lots of definitions about routers.
Routers.
But
Okay,
this
so
is
now we have an
about
idea.
malware.
All right, so they're warning consumers to reboot their internet routers and install new software patches to fight a nasty new malware attack called VPN Filter that has so far infected about 500,000 devices in more than 50 countries,
Wow.
including the old US of A.
Oh, man.
So this filter can be used to steal data, of course, or to order routers. I love this one, to self-destruct.
Oh.
So basically,
They
you
go
could have
in, they
something
cause
in the
problems,
yeah. It's
and
kind of
then
like Mission Impossible, where this tape will
Yeah.
self-destruct in
Ooh,
5
I like
seconds,
that.
15 seconds, right? So the same kind of thing. You're going to see steam and smoke coming out
Yeah.
of your. I
Your
don't think you
mission
will.
is to find
right.
the man, and
so
this tape will
it's-
disappear.
So you
in 5
could lose
seconds.
your internet. You could lose your internet and the devices that get you into the internet, which we've talked about.
You know what? But that would be good without internet.
Well, I mean, think about it.
Not
Think
for
about-
work.
Well, I've always felt why terrorists don't like just target everybody's phones,
Right, they
or they
could.
power grid. That would be the most devastating thing. Think
Right.
about all the teenagers out there. They would not know what to do without their phones.
They'd be walking around ghosting each other.
Right. So it's a big ask on part of the government. I mean, the FBI. Look, here's the thing. Look up your router's brand, your model and serial number. Figure out its default password. By the way, it's on the router.
It is.
It's a really long thing of letters and
which-
numbers.
which you mess up 5
capitals.
times before
oh
you
my
get
God,
it right.
totally.
Yes.
You know, but take a picture of it with your phone and then
never
enter it
thought of
into
that.
your computer, okay?
Oh, maybe.
Figure out its default password. Log on to its internal control software. I have no idea how to find the internal control
no.
software.
You know what?
And download a patch from the company's website. He goes, easy enough, right?
Nah.
No.
Just go to Geek Squad. They'll do it for you.
And they're working with the intelligence group of networking hard makers, Cisco Systems. They've traced the infection, get this, to an outlaw group linked to Russia's military intelligence service.
It always
So
comes
those
back to the
damn
Russians.
again, you know?
They're infecting.
That was the bunch that, by the way, that hacked into the Democratic National Committee during the 2016 presidential campaign.
Man, these were
That's
big
a lot of
chunks
pressure.
bites.
That's a lot of pressure, though. Think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm confused just reading the story.
Yeah, so am I.
But now it could
But
end up
I will ask
screwing up your
questions about
Memorial
it.
Day weekend. So they're
Yes.
asking to go do that and
Yeah.
add that to the list of
Things to worry about.
barbecue and, friends.
and malware.
Yes.
Okay. Well, go check it, ladies and gentlemen. It's probably in your basement or in a closet somewhere. Or just
That's all I got.
bury your head and pretend like nothing is going to happen. Thank you for listening and enjoying this podcast because we know you did. You had choices, but you chose us. Like it, share it, keep listening on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. For our director, Steve Helmuth, and our producer and social media guru, Alex Barth, I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
And now you know what's behind the media.